Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another semi-daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast from iTunes, Spotify, Radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. A little bit of a weird show today because there's not much to talk about. It's kind of a slow week for the sport of boxing. We're going to talk about Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez again because the fight is still not announced and there's still articles being put out. Teofimo Lopez is still tweeting about it, so we got to discuss. We got to debate it again, I guess. Plus, we do have some fights coming up this weekend, which are actually pretty decent, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of hype behind that. I cannot wait to get into some of the fights, though. That Jamal James-Thomas Dulorme fight is really good stuff. And plus, we do have a Ramirez postal announcement. Finally, thank God. But without further ado, let me get to my co-host on today's show, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you?
Good. It's we got some decent fights. We got Omar Juarez in action. It's been kind of a slow week, but we have some news, some Teofimo Lopez news. We got a good women's fight. So we got some news. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I guess we have to because there's not a lot to get into. So let's just get through it. Let's be honest, right? Like, why? And plus, like, why are we still even talking about this Lomachenko and Lopez issue? Because I feel like it's such a sort of easy topic, and I feel like as a boxing community, we should be at a consensus at this point about this issue. But it still seems that Lomachenko Lopez is not happening, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen at this point, if I'm being honest. Bob Arum is saying that Lomachenko has already accepted a pay cut and Lopez isn't. They're going to move on as such. And then Lopez goes on Twitter and saying the fight is going to happen. Stuff like this sometimes takes a little longer to happen, and that's why it's called negotiating for a reason. Dumbasses. Gary, I feel like we're now, like a week into this topic of Loma Lopez. Is it, is Loma, is Lopez ducking? Are they being underpaid? And that just being a perpetual conversation. And again, I feel like it's such an obvious one that we should know about, or that we should have a consensus about, at least, that both Loma and Lopez are being demonstrably underpaid here. If Eddie Hearn is out here saying that Luke Campbell, as a mandatory to Loma, was paid $1.2 million, the same amount that Teofimo Lopez would get paid in a unification for the undisputed championship on a pay-per-view for Top Rank's biggest fight of the year, then that is being demonstrably underpaid.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously we bring in, Loma and Corolla's payout. Loma being paid $3.2 million for that fight, which was also mandatory. And then game offered relatively the same amount, only $50,000 more to fight Teofimo Lopez in a unification. This is ridiculous. And the fact that fans are out there, echoing Bob Arum's sentiments here is really ridiculous. And I feel like a lot of fans are just being stupid. And as Lopez said, dumbasses.
I thought that dumbasses was a little unnecessary. Like, I
love it.
Whatever. Yeah, big fights, big money fights take a little bit more time to negotiate because there's so much on the line, as opposed to you're getting $6,000 to fight a 6-rounder. Would you like to take it? Yes or no? Right? Like, this is going to take a little longer. Given all the situations, we don't know if there's going to be fans, whatever. It's going to take some time. I do think the fight's going to happen. I do. I think that this will be Lopez's biggest payday, and I think they're trying to wave that carrot for him. Say, it's your biggest payday. It's your big. Well, no, crap. I'm a champion now, and this is for not just a unification race. For the can we say it's for undisputed? I guess that depends on who you ask, right?
Who you ask?
Devin Haney would say no.
Devin Haney would definitely say no. Eddie,
like they are being underpaid, right? For where the market is today, they're being underpaid. And I get the fans. The fans just want to see the fight, right? It's like when your favorite team is like $2 million away from signing, Alex Rodriguez. Like, just give him the extra money. It's like, well, it's not your money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't tell Lopez to take short money, right? Like, you don't. Lopez should not take short money. Lopez should demand every single dime he could get, and then demand 2 more, right? Like, this is it. This is the biggest fight that Top Rank can make. Why would he take it on the cheap? It would be ridiculous for him to take it on the cheap. Now, he's more than welcome to if he wants to. If I were advising him, I would say you're getting at least $2.5 million. right? If he's getting 3.25, about 40% of the purse, which you deserve, would be about $2.5 million. You're not signing this fight for less than $2.5 million. That's what I would advise him to do. If it doesn't get made, then you can have TFE fight his mandatory challenger, who I don't even know who that is. I think it's Kambosos is ranked number 3, and that's the highest guy by the IBF. No one's going to watch that fight. And then you can have Loma fight Ricky Burns or something in a fight no one's going to watch, right? So you can have 2 fights that no one's going to watch, or you can pull that money together and pay for 1 fight that everyone's going to watch, right? It's up. ESPN kind of needs the ratings for boxing. They have the money sitting in the glove compartment because they haven't spent it in anything this year, right? They got $90 million from ESPN. They have the money. It's sitting in their glove compartment. Bob's probably got it in his glove compartment, right? Like, they probably have the $1 million in small unmarked bills. Just pay the man. Just give it to him, right? Like, I understand that you're a businessman. You want to save as much money as you can. Mm-hmm. I get it, right? Sure, this is why we negotiate. But you can't say we're going to lose money on it when ESPN's giving you $90 million and you haven't put 1 big fight together this year within your own stable. Not 1. So you have the money. It's burning a hole in your pocket. Put the fight on. Pay the man his money. Pay him $2.5 million.
Development in the story, guys. Mike Coppinger writes, progress is being made toward a deal for Team from Lopez to face Vasily Lomachenko. Loma agreed to terms last week on a deal that would pay him in excess of $3.25 million. Flyweight championship fight. Growing optimism, a deal will be struck. I still want to hear more information, though. I'm glad that Mike Coppinger's out there saying that apparently there's good headway towards this fight, but if the monetary figures don't change, I don't see how that happens. Because I don't think Tifo Lopez is going to budge. And I'll be honest, I know everyone's been talking for Loma and for Igor Klimas, his management, but they have yet to make a public statement that I've seen on this matter. I'm not stating that Bob Arum is lying about Loma taking a pay cut. I'm just stating I would rather hear Loma's opinions about his own opinion on this matter than Bob Arum talking on behalf of him.
Loma's not taking a pay cut. That's why Loma's silent on the issue, right? Like, Loma agreed to what he agreed to, right? If you were actually taking a pay cut, you'd come out and say, I'm taking a pay cut, you take a pay cut too. But he's not. I mean, why would he take a pay cut to fight a tougher fight? That's ridiculous. It's like, I'll pay you $1 million to play the Lakers, but I only give you $1 million to play the Knicks, but I only give you $700,000 to play the Lakers. Who are you going to play? It's like, is that a real question? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I take a pay cut for a tougher battle? That's crazy talk, right? Like, that's literally insane. So no, he's not. Maybe he'll take it for the same rate, the 3.25 or whatever he was getting paid, but he's not taking less than that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree, and I find it very odd that Bob Arum is attacking, and in my opinion, I think he is attacking in a similar way that Oscar De La Hoya attacked Ryan Garcia and Canelo through the media. He's attacking his next big commodity, his next big draw. Like, I don't get Arum's strategy here. I don't. To publicly besmirch your next star.
He's got him signed long term, I would imagine. He wants him to take this fight because he thinks he can win the fight, right? I mean, like, it was like when they had Pippen signed long term. You could be nasty to him because he's already signed. He's already underpaid. Where are you going to go? You're under contract, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like Lopez is signed. He probably can't get out of that contract, or it would cost him millions and years of his career to get out of that contract. So, like, whatever, he signed. And if I can get him to win this fight, like, I have a superstar on the cheap. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think Arum thinks it's out of the realm of possibility that Lopez can win, even though he thinks Lomachenko is the best fighter he's ever signed, even better than Ali, which he said on ESPN radio.
Yeah,
that's
Rob is in the chat, guys. He's not on the show because he's busy. I understand, but he's out there bootlicking promoters as he usually does, saying, "Bob, what is he saying? Bob said the 1.2 is over double any of Tio's purses." Well, that's great.
Right.
But that's what Lomachenko is how much bigger of a fight than Kome. That's what we.
Right.
People always say like, well, he's getting paid more than he's ever been paid before. Well, yeah. Well, he's fighting someone that is exponentially better than anyone he's ever fought before. He's fighting someone exponentially more accomplished than anyone he's ever fought before. The comparison, you can't compare Lopez's purse when he fought Kome to what he could potentially make against Loma, because it's a bigger fight. So yes, he should get paid more.
Right. It's like you get paid more in the major leagues than you do in the minor leagues, even though you're doing basically the same job, because it's not the same job. This job is infinitely more difficult. Right? You're fighting Lomachenko, so yes, I'm going to be paid that way.
Exactly. Now, when we bring up, let's say, examples of Loma Corolla, right, which is, in my opinion, a tune-up, or a Devin Haney, Alejandro Santiago in terms of payout, right, and maybe you can use the same argument we just used right now against us when we bring up those examples. The reason why you can't is because we understand that these fights are not equal. That's why we're bringing up these examples. Lomachenko versus Anthony Corolla is not an equivalent fight to Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. So therefore, if they got the same payout then as this fight, it doesn't make sense. Same with Haney versus Alejandro Santiago. Haney got paid $1 million to fight a tune-up on a undercard. Okay. And you have Teofimo Lopez fighting the greatest fighter in the lower weight classes we've seen in 5 years at least?
At least, yeah.
You know, like he should get paid exponentially more than what these other fights in terms of respective payout. And it's very simple. And Rob, I'm not angry, and I know you're just passing information, but it's just ridiculous. Like, you know, to just throw out their promoter talk without any context is just to propagandize what they're saying.
Yeah. Besides, I'm a fight fan and I want to see the fight. Can anyone present a reasoned argument on why Lopez should take the fight on short money? Like, besides, because I don't care what he makes and I want to see the fight, which I understand, but it's not realistic to expect someone to say, "Oh, Jim in New Jersey wants to see the fight, well, then I'll take it for short money." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you give me a reason why, a real reason why he should take the money on short pay?
The only reasons they have is because there's no gate, so therefore you can't ask for too much, and you're getting paid more than you ever got paid before. So
then we'll wait then. But the only thing I would say that is Lopez said he wasn't going to fight in front of no fans, right? Like, that's what he initially said.
Yes, Lopez said he was not going to fight in front of fans.
Lopez has his tracks covered. I said I wasn't going to fight any fans. I may agree to that, but I'm not going to have my pay touched. I mean, if I'm his lawyer, he said exactly what I advised him to say. You know what I'm saying?
Rob, I'm not going to get in a little argument with you because you're in the chat and on the show, okay? But when you say, how am I feeling the propaganda? I didn't say you were. I'm saying when anyone puts out promoter talk, I'm using that word promoter talk, that phrase specifically, promoter talk, without contextualizing it in these types of instances, then yes, you're just adding to propaganda. Like, that's just it. Now, if you wrote, Rob, like Bob said, the 1.2 is over WTO's purses, and that is maybe, and you added something to the effect of, and that doesn't matter, that would be more accurate. Or something to the effect of, and he's fighting Lomachenko and not Richard Kome, so he should get paid more. That would be more accurate because it adds context to it.
It's like saying Buster Douglas shouldn't have got paid any more after he knocked out Mike Tyson and became the undisputed heavyweight champion. No, that's going to get you paid more, right? It's not like, oh, I'll fight Holyfield on the cheap now because, well, I was only paid $500,000 for the Tyson fight, so now I'll fight for less than. No, like, I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I knocked out Mike Tyson. I'm going to be paid accordingly. I don't understand why this is. He's the champion. He beat Kome. It's time to pay him what he's worth, right? He's worth 7 figures in any fight. In this fight, which is the biggest fight they can make, you can get him 2.5. If you're giving Loma 3.2, you can give a 40% cut to Lopez, which would be about, and I'm not a math major, about $2.5 million.
Hassan in the chat saying, don't fumble the bag, though. I will say this. In some instances, I understand that sentiment of like, hey, like, this is just the right timing. You may not get this chance again. I get that in some instances. This is not one of those, in my opinion. First off, I think, as we've seen, a fight like Lomachenko versus Haney, for example, is not going to happen anytime soon. Top Rank specifically asked for the franchise belt to get away from Devin Haney. I don't think we're going to get a Lomachenko Linares rematch. I don't think we're going to get a Lomachenko Ryan Garcia fight if he beats Luke Campbell. Like, I just don't think those happen before this fight. It's still in-house. It's still unification. It's still a really big fight. The worst we're going to get is them taking respective tune-ups before they actually fight first quarter next year. Right? Like, that's worst case scenarios. Like you said, Loma fights Ricky Burns or something to that effect. You know, a veteran, but somebody that we know he beats. Lopez fights someone to similar caliber, right? People we know they beat. That, to me, is not going to fumble the bag, especially if you end up getting paid what you should have got paid at the end.
The only thing I would say was after Mosley beat De La Hoya, he wanted $15 million for the rematch, which would have been a 50-50 split. And they weren't going to offer that to him. They only offered him 10. So he's like, well, I'll beat Vernon Forrest in the interim and then get the rematch next year. And then he lost to Vernon Forrest. So don't do that. If you're TFE with Lopez, don't lose to George Kambosos in the interim because that's going to destroy your negotiating power. But yeah, you're right. The money will be there for him in the future.
Yeah, I don't think there's a Vernon Forrest out there at the moment, per se. I could be wrong about that. I think George Kambosos.
We didn't know Vernon. I mean, Vernon Forrest was an Olympian and he was a good prospect, but he wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire at that point.
True. But he had credentials.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
George Kambosos is a good prospect. I don't know if that's a great comparison to Vernon Forrest at this point, but it would be interesting. Like, let's say if they did fight and Kambosos beats up Teofimo Lopez, that would be, to your point, Hassan, in the chat, that would be exactly your point of fumbling the bag. Like, you have this big fight, this big opportunity, and you fight a guy that's not even close to Lomachenko in terms of caliber and name value and lose to him. Absolutely, that would fumble the bag. I don't think that happens, though. I just don't. And honestly, if you're the fighters right now, I do think you have a lot of leverage when it comes to negotiating with these promoters and networks. I do. So this is peak pro fighter time in terms of negotiation room, in terms of pay, in terms of leverage in sort of logistics because of the pandemic. I think a lot of fighters sort of are in the driver's seat, and Lopez is one of them. And this is Bob Arum freaking out because he's not in the driver's seat, and he has to now think outside the box as a promotional company, and Top Rank hates doing that. Top Rank loves
to have to think outside the box because they have $90 million. Just make good fights. That's all you got to do.
But see, in Bob Arum's mind, and I think the same with Carl Moretti and everyone over at Top Rank, I think they're all just some similar group think there. There's no gate, therefore we're going to lose money. Like, they're automatically in that sentiment that we're not going to make money back because there's not going to be a gate. If we're on pay-per-view, we might not make our money back anyways. So we're not going to pay out these guys what they want. Like, that's just like, that's 1 + 1 = 2 for them. Regardless of the context of, hey, Carl, hey, Bob, you still have $90 million left over in your budget because you haven't been doing anything. And the shows you have been put on have been, let's be honest, very cheap to produce and to put on. So you have money that you can just throw at these guys and make a big event. They're not thinking that because they're thinking we're going to lose money. We don't have the gate. We're going to lose money. We don't have the gate. These old time promoters are thinking that way. They're still in the gate. The gate matters more than anything. And for this, like in terms of the regional sense, that's absolutely true.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. But we're not in the regional sense. We're in the international sense. We're talking about Bob Arum and his deals with TV companies around the world. So you can find the money. You have the money.
Just pony it up.
Just pony it.
The money is sitting there. You just don't want to spend it.
Because, like, honestly, what else do you have if you're Bob Arum? You have Ramirez Postal, which we're going to get into. That's the best fight Top Rank has on their schedule this year.
Yeah.
And it's not even close to what's 2 and 3 and 4 on that list. Like, there's nothing close to it. That's how bad their schedule has been, how bad their year has been. They need this desperately. So I don't know how Lopez should be. I don't know how anyone should argue, or anyone can argue, that Lopez does not have the leverage. He shouldn't get paid what he's asking for. I don't know how anyone can argue that. Like, it's just so obvious and evident.
You can't argue. The only thing you can say is it's his career high person, and I want to see the fight, so just take it, right? Like, I don't really care if I don't think Lopez cares if you want to see the fight. Like, he's going to be paid his quote, like, and that's it. I mean, if I wanted you to do some dangerous job, right? If I wanted to see you work in imploding a building, I want to see it. Are you going to do it for a small amount of money, or are you going to do it for your full quote? You know, like, this is a really dangerous job, guys. And he's brings value to the fight, right? He's putting his life on the line in the biggest fight of his career as a world champion in a unification fight. There's no logical reason why he should take it on the cheap. I mean, you can't give me one other than I want to see the fight. Well, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Who says Scott Brown saying Tifamo can now keep making 135 with the Mandos? Question mark. LOL. I obviously think that there's maybe some question mark to Tifamo Lopez and how long he can stay in this division. But from what I understand, and maybe Rob can correct me on this in the chat, the sort of unspecified rule of, hey, no Mandos right now because of the pandemic is still in effect for a lot of these sanctioning bodies. Like, a lot of the usual orders we get don't happen now because they understand certain things can't be made. So, again, Lopez is in the driver's seat because what else are you going to make? You know, from a logistics standpoint, this is the easiest fight to make. Both guys are in the U.S. They live in the U.S. They train in the U.S. They're in your stable. They're in your network. It's a super easy fight to make if you just pay them what they are worth. That's why. So I think, honestly, we may not even get that in-between fight. We may just get a wait-out period. Or, like, we get a 3-month, 4-month period of negotiation still, and the fight gets made first quarter next year. And just a long layoff. Like, that could happen. That kind of happened with Lomachenko and Nicholas Walters to a degree, right? Like, Nicholas Walters had a long layoff just because he was negotiating for the fight for so long, and therefore he had no tune-up. But I don't think it should be that much of an issue. These are two top guys. Again, if they make the fight January, February of next year and they have a year-long layoff, I don't think it's an issue. No, especially if both have the layoff, right?
You think they'll make it? What's your gut feeling tell you? You think they'll make it for this year?
No.
I do.
Really?
I think it'll be November, December this year. Yeah.
I think it would be because Bob Arum and Top Rank have to swallow some pride and pay Lopez what he's worth.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying they do, right?
And I mean, how many times has Bob Arum or Top Rank ever swallowed their pride when it comes to a fighter?
Not off the top of my head, but I mean, I'd have to go through and really, really think about that. Like, right? I'm sure I can find an example, but off the top of my head, no, they didn't.
All the big ones are bad.
All the big ones are bad, yeah.
I'm saying, like, we're going to get towards a like Mikey Garcia situation or a Floyd Mayweather situation here. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is Top Rank has a long track record and history of having issues with their top stars. Like, that is not a new thing at all. And you can even argue that, like, Crawford and Top Rank have had issues.
Like, they had issues with Pacquiao, like when they didn't pay him for a while. Like, that was problematic for Pacquiao.
I forgot about that. Oh my God. Remember, what was Pacquiao's old school manager back in the day? Michael Kuntz?
Yes. Is that how you? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember him?
I didn't want to say his name wrong and offend people.
I apologize. I said it wrong. Whatever happened to that guy, man?
He's still around, isn't he?
I don't think he manages Pacquiao anymore. It's
no, not Pacquiao, but I think he still manages other guys.
Who does he manage?
I don't know.
I'm gonna do some digging now. I'm curious what happened to that dude. He disappeared, man. maybe he was one of those drug dealers that what's his name threw out of the helicopter. Dr. Duarte, man. Philippines, what up? Let's move on. Unless you have any other thoughts about Loma Lopez.
No, I think we've covered that in depth.
Rob said, ironically, Bob said mandatory should be pushed back by a year, yet that's right, we just got the WBO order for Mayer versus Branica. I'm wondering what the deal with the orders are, because there was that, I think the WBC specifically stated we're not going to order mandatories right now. I don't know if other sanctioned bodies followed suit, but usually with one, they all do it to a degree. Yeah. But I'm curious if that's like an official rule. that like mandatories are pushed back by certain sanctioned bodies, or if it's just a unspoken of, hey, like this is kind of a policy we're doing right now, but we don't know. Because, like Rob said, the WBO just ordered today a Michaela Mayer fight versus Brodnicka. So
I'm waiting for the IBF to say that the Pulev fight doesn't have to happen at all. Actually,
good one, Gary. Good one, man. Yeah, you keep wishing, man. You keep wishing upon a star. Let's talk about this Terry Harper versus Natasha Jonas card on Matchroom, Sky, and obviously DAZN on Friday, guys. I want to reiterate that because I keep thinking it's a Saturday card. It's Friday, so it's tomorrow midday for all of us in the U.S. This is a really fun fight. I don't think it's going to be one that is truly competitive in the sense that like it's a close fight. Who's going to like? I don't know who won it in terms of decision. I think it's going to be competitive in terms of Natasha Jonas is definitely going to be a game opponent. She's going to win a round or two, maybe 3 rounds at most. But Terry Harper is a legit, like top level, like world level fighter in my opinion. I love her combinations. I love her offense at range. I think she's a little bit of a mean streak too at times. Like when we saw, or what I saw, I know you guys on the show, the rest of you guys on the show, I've not been too high or as high as I was on the Michaela Mayer Helen Joseph fight as like this. Wow, Michaela Mayer has really shown that she's a legit opponent or a legit fighter now. Terry Harper has shown me that for a while, that she can really dig down deep. She has great boxing ability. She great boxing IQ as well. Like I think she just kind of checks the boxes on a lot of things. Like she's sort of that B plus, that 88 out of 100 in everything in terms of like a video game rating, right? Like she's just really talented. And Natasha Jonas is a very game opponent. So I expect that type of fight where it's fun, it's competitive in spots, but Harper is clearly the better and may even get a late fight finish, especially if it wasn't 2-minute rounds. Gary, your thoughts on this main event?
I'm going to hold judgment, right? Because to me, this is a little bit like the Katie Taylor Pursoon fight, right? Like we're like, oh, okay, Pursoon's good, but she may make it interesting, but ultimately she's going to get outclassed. No, I mean, most people think she won. I kind of have the same feelings that you have. Like this may be fun, but it ultimately should be one-sided. But I'm gonna reserve that judgment. I'm gonna pick Harper to win on points, but I think this may be a lot more competitive than people are thinking it may be.
If it is, I think that'd be more of a sign that like it was just one of those nights. Because Terry Harper like kind of demolished Ava Wallstrom, and she beat up Vivina Ubanov. And Ubanov is legit talented, in my opinion. Natasha Jonas is good, you know, in the way that Jamal James or Thomas Dulorme are good. We're going to get to them in a bit, right? Like clearly, like there's talent. Clearly, they're perennial world level fighters. Right? I'm not trying to knock them, but there's a difference between being in the top 10 always or the top 15 always and being a world champion always. Like there's just a difference to that level, and it might be a very minute difference, but it is a difference. And I think Harper is, I'll be honest, like I think Harper might be the best boxer out of the UK, not named Kay Taylor. And I think whenever that fight gets materialized and happens, Harper's going to be ultra competitive in it. And I think she can even beat Kay Taylor on some nights. Harper's really talented. Like I've always thought she is, like she's the next sort of face of women's boxing after Kay Taylor in the UK. Like I think they're going to share a lot of spotlight for a bit.
Probably, yeah.
LFC reminded me that Ubanov beat Jonas up pretty bad. Yes, she did. I think this is going to be competitive. I think it's going to be fun. But Terry Harper is just, in my opinion, a couple levels above Natasha Jonas. I think Terry Harper might be the best 130-pounder we have in the world. So I'm excited to see how well she looks here. Not if this is going to be a fight of the year contender. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, does she show more improvement? Does she show a little more, pizzazz, for lack of a better term, right? A little more style in her game. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for degrees of separation in terms of how good she is and how better she is than Natasha Jonas. Also on the card, I know Rob's boy is on it. Anthony Fowler versus Adam Harper. Also, Chris Billum Smith versus Nathan Thorley. These I don't know, by the way. Akip Fayaz versus Kane Baker. Ivan Hoppy Price versus Johnny Phillips. Literally the only other name I know in this card, I'll be honest, and this is probably, I'm maybe showing a little bit of my casualness here at this point in time, is Anthony Fowler. I don't know any of these other names.
Is the guy Fowler fighting? Is he any relation to Terry Harper?
I don't know.
How about Bryce Harper?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I just looked at this picture. Definitely not.
Definitely not. Okay.
No, definitely not. And he has 0 knockouts and 9 wins.
So a power puncher.
This card is not that great, I'll be honest. This card's a little bit bad. Like, it's a good main event, but there's not much here on the rest of it. Let's be honest. Gary?
No, I agree. I mean, the main event's fine. The rest of it's a little not fantastic.
No.
It'd be good to see Fowler again. I wish he was fighting someone I knew so I could at least gauge his performance. But he's got to fight Bryce Harper's cousin. He's got to fight Bryce Harper's cousin.
By the way,
Bryce Harper's a baseball player, by the way, who's a little bit overrated.
Mr. S in the chat saying the Kane Baker fight was canceled. Opponent is sick. Damn, guys. Whole weekend.
Do you think that Fowler should just fight Bryce Harper instead?
Bryce Harper might beat him up.
He'll probably swing and miss a lot. Fowler might be able to counter him. Yeah.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's definitely true. A lot of swinging and missing. A lot of winning.
His connect percentage isn't great. What?
Is he one of the most hyped baseball players of the last 10, 20 years?
See, the thing is, he's good. Obviously, he's good, right?
No, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying overhyped.
I mean, kind of, yeah. He had 2 great seasons. It's oh, who's better, him or Mike Trout? And that was a real debate. It was is Broner the next Floyd Mayweather? It's whoa, guys, let's slow that way down, right? It's not like Broner's a terrible fighter or anything. He's not. All right. Harper's a good player, but is he the best player in baseball? Not even close. Not even close. He's good. He's got a lot of. I don't think he's good in the outfield. I don't care what people say. I've seen him enough. He's got a cannon for an arm, but that doesn't make him a good outfielder.
Hassan Malik saying seen better matchups on the Golden Contract cards, those MTK cards. Yeah, that's because MTK has a very deep roster. They can do that. What else in the chat? That's about it for that card, I think. Unless you have any other thoughts, Gary, you good?
Yeah. I'm just
Jamal James versus Thomas Dulorme on Fox this Saturday. Like I said a little bit earlier ago, this is a fight between 2 guys who are perennial top 15 guys and who are perennially just good. So I'm curious to see who is the better of just the good guys. You know what I mean? Neither guy is particularly great at anything, but they're really good at everything. So I'm curious to see who wins this, who gets the better of it. How do they get the better of it? What path to victory does Jamal James have other than just being the taller, bigger guy with arguably more power? What's the path to victory for Thomas Dulorme other than just being probably the better technical boxer slightly? That's about it in terms of the separation between these two, I think. The winner of this fight is, I've seen a lot of people say it's going to get a title fight. I don't think that happens. I think they probably fight a Keith Thurman next.
It's going to be tough for them to get a title fight just because of the division. There's going to be unification fights. Everyone wants to see Crawford Spence. It's just going to be tough for them, unless you mean that would be a regular title shot. You mean that maybe that's possible. But one of the 4 major belts, I can't see that happening. Although they may get a big money fight. And I just looked it up. Including this season, over the last 4 years, Bryce Harper has hit over 260 once. Okay, just keep that in mind, guys. Just keep that in mind.
That's so bad.
He had the season in 2015 where he hit 330 with 40 homers, and everyone's like, "Oh, look, he's totally panned out." It was an amazing season, but since then, he really hasn't been that good. He's not even that young anymore. He's probably in his late 20s. I'm this is it. This is the finished product.
Gary, you know me. I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but there's one thing my dad taught me. If you're not batting over 300, you're not worth the fucking contract.
I kind of agree. Baseball has shifted. You how NBA's gone to 3 points and efficiency shooting and 3 points late and foul shot. So baseball has gone away from with the Yankees and the Red Sox in the early 2000s where everybody hit 300 with 20 homers. Yeah. Now it's just walk and hit home runs, which I hate. I still don't think it's the winning brand of baseball. but like the OPS, the on base plus slugging, and like the home runs is accredited more than just the guy who gets like Ichiro Suzuki, right? One of the best hitters I ever saw. I don't know how they would grade him today, right? Because he didn't walk a lot, but he got 2 hits every game. I don't like the current. I like, Bernie Williams, the guy, right, who hit 320 every year.
Ichiro's amazing, by the way. I just want to point that out. A legend. I remember watching live. He got a bigger.
That's how you.
He got a bigger applause every time in LA than anyone else. It didn't matter if it was a Dodger game, Angel game. He got the bigger applause of anyone else. Like that's just period. That's how it was. That guy was royalty. That guy was a fucking god.
I don't love the way that baseball is played right now. Like I think that you can easily go back to put the ball in play, take the extra base instead of just station to station and hope somebody hits a home run. I get it. These guys are all tremendous. Yeah.
You cut out a little bit right there.
Oh.
You're back. I think it's okay. Gary, speak. Are you there? Oh,
yes,
you're back.
I am here.
Hi, Gary.
Okay.
It's okay.
Hello.
Cut out. The streamer was like, "Oh, too much baseball. Got to cut it back here. Get the box."
Yeah, it's baseball. Mike Trout. No, not Mike Trout. Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. Bryce Harper's overrated, and I think that Anthony Fowler is a better baseball player than him. Definitely a better outfielder.
Oh my god, that's so good. All right. Jamal James, Thomas Dulorme. Your thoughts, Gary?
Good. It's a good fight. It's two guys right around 10, 12 top welterweights. It's two guys who have proven that they belong in they're 2 world level fighters, two world class fighters. They're just never going to win a world title at 147 unless it's absolutely handed to them, right? It's good. I think Dulorme has a little bit more in the toolbox. I think he has a few extra gears, and I'm going to lean towards Dulorme to take a decision. But this is, look, Jamal James lost to Ugas, has put together a bunch of wins since. Like, he's a good fighter who deserves a big money. I'm not saying this is a big money fight, but it is what it is. It's a good fight where either guy can win. Jamal James has to really, really fight like the taller fighter here. I know sometimes he does, and sometimes he fights on the inside. He's got to be the taller fighter in here, and like he's never really done that for all 12. This is 12 rounder, right?
Yes, he's kind of like a poor man's Jared Hurd that way, huh? Where like he's so much bigger and rangier than his peers in the division, but he's an inside fighter. Like Jamal James, I would classify as an inside fighter.
He'll use his size in spots, but mostly he fights on the inside, which he's not better than Dulorme. He wasn't better than Ugas on the inside. He loses those fights, right? If he could keep the guys at the end of the jab, smother him on the inside, he'll do some work on the inside because he can fight on the inside, obviously, but he can't outfight those guys inside. So do some work on the inside and tie him up right away and get him back on the outside.
Now, I absolutely agree with like Ugas being obviously the better inside fighter and just obviously just close range fighter between the two, right? Like Ugas wants to be a little more in the phone booth than most people, especially since he just throws a lot of hooks. Like that's Ugas. He throws single shots, those hooks, and that's what he wants to do. But with Dulorme, he's more of the guy that wants to be on the jab, wants to be on the back for just sort of having a, sort of that sparring match, so to speak. He likes it in that tone, that tempo, right? The Jesse Vargas Thomas Dulorme fight is a good example of like the fight he likes to have, right?
Vargas is a taller, rangier guy, and I thought. I don't know who you thought. It was very close. I thought Dulorme won the fight.
I thought Dulorme won the fight as well. Jamal James playing on the outside with the better boxer. Is that the right recipe for victory for Jamal James? Is that the right path to victory for him to be on the outside, contend and fight the jab battle with Dulorme, or should he use his size and sort of volume on the inside, his power on the inside, and be the bigger guy, wear on him, lie clinch work, kind of just rough him up that way?
I think if he's going to win the fight, he has to win it from the outside, right?
You think Dulorme is a better inside fighter than he is?
I think Dulorme is yes. I think Dulorme is better, a little bit better all around, right? So the only thing Jamal James can do is try to use his advantage, which is his length and his reach. And he can fight on the outside. Like we all say he's an inside fighter, and he is. But like, go back and watch some of his fights. He fights on the outside in spots. He just would prefer to fight on the inside, which is so weird to me, right? It's like Paul Williams did the same thing, and Paul Williams had like Marcus Camby type arms. Like, why are you doing this? Just like use your natural gifts. You know what I'm saying? like Tommy Hearns. Like, where is Emmanuel Stewart when you need him to train these tall, lanky guys, right?
Okay. All right.
I think both guys win rounds. I think it's close, but I think Dulorme just does everything a little bit better. I think Dulorme wins the decision. But not to say Jamal James can't. He just has to really fight a disciplined fight on the outside, do some work on the inside, and then tie him up, smother him up, and try to wear him down with like those kind of roughhouse tactics.
I'm probably leaning to Dulorme decision as well, like you. And plus, I think Dulorme is a little bit criminally underrated. Like, he is always in the top of the division. He's always fighting good opponents. He's always in good fights. He just a little bit bland in terms of just personality, because I think that's just kind of him. And that's fine. But the guy's a very decent and good fighter. He's obviously very world level. I mean, he's still, a top 4 or 5 win for Terrence Crawford, arguably, for fuck's sake. Like, he's a quality opponent at this time. If Jamal James beats Dulorme, I would love a Keith Thurman Jamal James fight. I think that would make perfect sense. Or Sean Porter, Jamal James, something like that. One of the guys that don't have a title, that aren't fighting Earl Spence or Terrence Crawford next, but one of those top, 7, 8 guys. Maybe an Ugas rematch. I'll take that.
I get what you're saying. I just think Thurman's athleticism and Porter's brute force, they blow him away.
Oh, no. I'm not picking him to beat.
No, I'm saying, I just think those two names you gave me, they're washes. Just stylistically, I don't think Jamal James has.
Thurman off of a long layoff and a loss. It's a decent tune-up, especially if Jamal James is a win against Dulorme. I think it makes all the sense in the world. And I think I think Jamal James would be actually more competitive with that context against Thurman than you think. Similar to like Josito Lopez being far more competitive than I think what people thought going into that Thurman fight, right? But
Dulorme is only 30. Doesn't he feel like he should be like 34, 35?
I would guess like the mid-30s for that guy. Moving on. Mikhail Fox on the card as well against Lucas Zantamaria. I will just want to point that out because I do like Mikhail Fox. I think he's a good fighter, but he's also the stand-in if one of the main eventers go out. So let's say if Jamal James or Tom Dulorme get COVID, Mikhail Fox will be moving into that main event slot, similar to Tremaine Williams last week. Just want to let people know that. Now let's get into the undercard fights. I know Gary is hyped on. Omar Juarez versus Willie Shaw. Gary,
obviously this is the best opponent Omar Juarez has ever fought, right? I mean, the guy's got a shiny record. I think he's 12-1. So it should be a test. We should get to see, and I think it's an 8-rounder, is it not?
Yes.
So we're gonna get to see him go rounds. Hopefully, again, I would love to see Juarez get a first-round knockout and look spectacular and stuff. But hopefully, Willie Shaw stands up to him and can last 6, 7, 8 rounds. I'm hoping he goes the distance and really makes Juarez work. Because I at this point, like, yes, you want knockouts, you want to look spectacular, but I really want to see how Juarez responds to pressure, how Juarez responds to certain things. And I think this guy's really tall, right? He's kind of like really tall and rangy for the weight class. Like, I think it's a good test. I think it's good matchmaking to see how it develops and how far along Juarez is. Now we know he's better than like a guy like Dalton Smith, who's the same weight class. But like, how close is he? Where can we go if he demolishes this guy or wins every single round? How quickly can we start to move him up? I think it's a good matchup. I mean, it's a guy obviously he should beat, but I think it's a guy that offers resistance.
I love how you slipped that in there, by the way. I love it so much. I just hope you know that. So good. I think Omar Juarez, like I've said, I've always liked his offense. I'm always interested to see his improvements from a defensive standpoint. So if Willie Shaw can actually, put up a good fight, I'm always curious to see how Juarez can respond to that, especially since you're so high on him. And I am honestly high on his offense. I think offensively, he's farther along than most prospects at his stage. In the way he throws his combinations, how fluid they are, how fluid his technique is, and just his overall body technique in terms of like how he throws a shot, his body mechanics, so to speak, in throwing a shot. The guy is obviously a natural in that sense. I'm just always curious as the total package because I haven't seen that yet. Also, in terms of prospects, Vito Minilinski Jr. versus Chris Rollins. I Vito is still on cards, so we got to talk about him, I guess. Also, I know this guy very well because I've spent a lot of time with him. Michael Polite Coffee is on the undercard as well, a guy that spent a lot of time in Deontay Wilder's gym. Again, a lot of sparring with him. I will say this: Michael Polite Coffee is one of those guys who's nice, very pleasant, never going to be a champion, never going to be in the top 10. But, I mean, if you like big heavyweights throwing leather around, he's kind of one of those guys. So take that for what it is. But that's probably because I'm, very biased against the heavyweight division in terms of its competitiveness. Also, Lennox Allen is on the undercard as well. I've always liked watching Lennox Allen fight. Good prospect. That's about it in terms of like things that I see and I notice in terms of interest. Gary, any other thoughts on that card?
Yeah, Vito Melanicki is not a prospect to watch.
That is true. That is definitely true. Absolutely agree with that. Moving on to the last topic of the day. Let's get to Ramirez Postal. Official August 29th, ESPN Plus. Gary, your thoughts?
You want me to say I'm gonna pick Postal, right? That's
Yes.
what you want me to do.
You've been saying that off the record and on the record for weeks now.
Oh, have I said it on the record?
You've said it on a show, I feel like, right?
Okay, I know I've said it off the record. I didn't know that I've gone full crazy and picked him to win on the show because then people are going to hold me to the fire on that.
I feel like you've said it in passing on shows before. I could be wrong. I could have snitched on you right there, but too bad.
I really like Postal. I think Postal is really good. I think Ramirez is a little bit overrated, although he looked excellent in the Hooker fight. I don't know that he's that good because he's always looked kind of ordinary to me outside of that fight. Not ordinary, but not that level, right? He never looked like next worldly level like he did against Hooker. He's good. Like Foo's always like, is he that good? Really? Like I don't know. I'm gonna pick Postal tentatively. I may change this as we get closer. Postal's still not that old, right? I'm trying to can he execute Hooker's game plan but not get caught? Right? He's not defensively a wizard either, Postal. But can he stay away from the heavy artillery from Ramirez the way that Hooker couldn't? I don't know. I think he's got a little more experience. I thought he fought Taylor really well. I picked him to beat Taylor too. That didn't happen. So I'm going to keep picking him until he actually wins one of his fights because I think he can. I think he's really good. Like he fought that Taylor fight on a long layoff and he was really competitive with him. I think we all agree that Taylor is better than Ramirez, right? Taylor beat Prograis.
Sure, but that's Prograis.
Prograis better than Ramirez.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you like Ramirez. Okay, I get it, but Ramirez beat Hooker. I mean, he beat Pedraza, Zepeda. He beat Zepeda, and he's got good wins. So, I mean, you like him. Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
Gary, I just think that the separation between these like four guys, so to speak, at like the top is just very small. Like, I don't think that any of them can hold, like theoretically, if all these guys stay in the division for a decade, would one of them reign over the others? No. Like that's kind of where I come down to it. So it's hard for me at this point to go, oh yeah, for sure I'm picking Postal, or for sure I'm picking Ramirez, or for sure I'm picking Taylor, or Prograis in a rematch, or Prograis in these other fights. Like, I don't know about that. Like, if you ask me right now, Ramirez versus Prograis, who I'm picking, I'm probably picking Ramirez. Okay. But that's a gun to my head moment. Like, that's one of those where, like, I can obviously see Prograis winning that. You ask me gun to my head, who wins, Postal, Prograis? Gun to my head when I pick Prograis. Like that's just how it is. I think Postal's a little bit of the fourth of that top four. And that's not an indictment on him. Like he might be like the Danny Garcia or like the Sean Porter of the group, where like he's ultra competitive all the time with those top guys, but he's never going to run down. He's never going to dominate those guys. Like that's just never going to happen. So I don't think it's wrong for you to pick Postal against Ramirez. I don't think that's ridiculous. Like, let me get that out of the way. Like, I don't think you're crazy for saying that. I don't think anyone would be crazy picking Postal to beat Ramirez. The Postal-Taylor fight was ultra close, where Taylor only won because of a late fight surge and come back, right? Like Postal was winning the first like 5 rounds easy. And then Taylor started adapting and changing up his game plan. Now, Postal again against Prograis, against Ramirez, against Hooker, if Hooker was still at 140. I don't know. It all depends. Like, this is one of those like where boxing math doesn't make sense. Like, this division is the perfect example of that, where boxing math will just not make sense. I can see Ramirez beating Taylor, but Prograis beating Ramirez. Like, I could see that. That's not out of the question, is it?
Yeah.
Like, Taylor Prograis was a ultra close fight as well, where people thought Prograis won, for fuck's sake. So
I had Prograis in my card. Yeah.
I don't think I did, but I can't remember, so I'm not gonna.
You did. Rob had Taylor, and I had him a little bit wider than you did. I think you had him by like 1 point, and I had him by like 2 or 3. But it was really close. I mean, there were so many swing rounds. You could have easily scored it either way.
So you take these ultra talented fighters that are good at everything, that are specialists in their own right? Like, I can say Josh Taylor is a specialist. I can say Ramirez is a specialist. I can say Prograis is a specialist. I can say Postal is a specialist. They don't do the same specialist thing, though.
No.
So, like, at this point, I'm picking Ramirez. I think he's going to be able to get around the jab. I think he's going to be able to apply his pressure and win rounds. I think that's going to happen. Is that going to happen? I don't know. But that's my picking.
Rob thought it was laughable that I was picking Postal, right?
It's not laughable. Now, will I laugh at you at times because it's funny? Yes.
That's fine.
Like, it's always
as long as this doesn't look like Prograis versus Terry Flanagan.
No,
as long as it doesn't look like that, then I'll be fine. If I'm wrong, all right. Like, I picked what's his name?
First off, I think that's a good comparison to like a bad pick. That was a truly bad pick at the time. We all was like, no, Gary, this is a bad pick. Everyone in the chat was like, this is a bad pick, right? You went with it. This is not a bad pick. It might be the wrong pick, but it's not a bad pick. And those are two very different things, right? For example, like picking Danny Garcia is not laughable against Earl Spence.
No.
It might be the wrong pick, obviously, but it's not laughable. You know?
I feel you'll get some people to pick Danny Garcia. Like, it won't be everyone pick. You'll get some people to pick Garcia.
Same with Postal Ramirez. You're gonna get some people picking Postal, but I think the majority are gonna pick Ramirez because of his momentum right now. And also, as you said, the Maurice Hooker fight. I think that you kind of shoved that under the rug, but that was a massive technical evolution in his game that will not just go away. And he's fighting a guy in Postal that I think is very similar in ways to Maurice Hooker. Not a one-for-one analog, but very similar. So I think Ramirez is going to sort of replicate that great leap forward in his game, in his technical ability with Postal. I think we're going to see a largely similar fight here, where like even like Hooker was competitive in spots, right? But it was
Hooker did really well in spots. He was just eating a lot more than he was. He did really. I mean, he landed a ton of shots. He just ate really big shots. I thought Hooker went into the fight thinking he was going to be the fastest fighter, and it didn't turn out that way. Like, I was really surprised with Ramirez.
And his speed too. Ramirez's speed, especially his ability to get on the inside, from being on the outside to the get on the inside around your jab. He was exponentially faster than anyone in this division in doing that. Like, Prograis isn't the guy to like leap forward around a jab, slip under, duck under, and get on the inside. That's not him. He wants to finesse his way in there, right? Ramirez is like, I don't know what the best description is. Like, that guy is just full throttle to the inside, and he's beating you up when he's on the way there and when he gets there. I think Postal's going to take a lot of shots, and he's going to get beat up. And he's going to win.
If he does, he loses. If he eats shots like Hooker, I'm trying to. And like, Postal is not a defensive genius, right? Like, he's not going to make you miss a whole lot. He'll look to block and counter and stuff, but he's not going to. He's not a defensive wizard in there, right? Like, so he's got to keep him at range. He's got to keep him off, and he's got to smother him on the inside. He's got to fight the way Hooker did, but not get hit. Right? I don't know how you do that exactly. I do think he's been in a lot of big fights. He's sharp. He's fought Crawford and Taylor, who are the two best 140 pounders of the last decade. So he's been in the ring with them. Like, I think he'll get this figured out. It's a good fight, and look, I wouldn't be surprised if Ramirez wins. I mean, I'm probably half expecting Ramirez to win, but I'm gonna pick Postal.
Who do you pick in a fight, Postal or Mario Barrios?
Next question.
No, come on. Who would you pick right now? Let's say, all right, hypothetically speaking, Postal beats Ramirez, unified champion now. His first title defense is against Mario Barrios, who's just had a tune-up. He's looking good against Ryan Carl, right? The ginger with the cowboy hat. Let's say that fight gets made. Who are you picking? Right, so it's not Barrios coming off this long layoff and a broken jaw. Like he has a win under his belt, that he looks great in. And now he's fighting Victor Postal for, the unified championship.
I picked Barrios to beat Hooker. Would Barrios... Postal is good, man.
The logical pretzel you're about to get yourself into. You're like, damn it, he's got me here.
I don't want to answer the question, right? Like that's.
I don't want to answer the
question. I don't answer questions, officer. I don't answer questions.
I'm going to totally tell Rob on the back end. Rob, please go to the end of the show. I totally very stumped. It's so good.
I think Postal is good, right? I really do.
Yeah.
Good thing Barrios is going to 147 from what in the relative near future. So.
Ooh, Barrios versus the winner of Jamal James, Thomas Dulorme. That would actually make sense in some ways.
That's a great fight, right? I don't know, right? Because Barrios if it's James, Barrios is used to the longer, taller, lankier guy. James, in a lot of ways, he'd be fighting himself, right? Let me see how Barrios. Like I was really impressed with Hooker at 147, right? Like I know he fought a bomb, he fought no one, but he looked strong. He looked physical. He didn't look ill. Like he looked physically fit. Like he was fighting in the right weight class. Let me see what Barrios looks at like at 147. He never looked as drained to me as Hooker did making 140, but maybe he really fills out and he's physically really strong and healthy at 147. But I need to see. I think Barrios could win those fights, but I need to see him at 147 fight someone. And
fight the loser of that fight. That would probably make more sense.
Fight Omar Figueroa. You think he's totally and like Omar's one of my favorite fighters ever. But he's a tough guy. He's going to go the distance. He's going to make you work. Let's see how Figueroa. I mean, he lost every second to Ugas, but he never.
I'll be honest. I would probably pick Barrios in that fight.
Wow. Yeah, I need to see something. I mean, Figueroa, since that comeback, he had the John Molina fight where he looked trash. And then he won, but he beat John Molina. And then he got washed by Ugas.
Who, by the way, is a fucking LAPD cop now. Fuck out.
Is he really?
Yeah, fuck out of here, John Molina Jr. In the middle of like these protests, he went, I'm going to be a cop.
They don't have like age. I'm not trying to say that, but they don't have age restrictions. He's got to be 35 years old at least, right? They don't have age restrictions for a new hire. I mean, usually they do.
I saw the photo of him in his graduation outfit. Graduate Police Academy. Which, by the way, underrated movie series. If I point that out.
All 20 of them. How many were there? 9?
All 20. There was a lot. There's at least.
They were good. I can't even tell you which one is which, but they're really good. They're all really good. They're funny.
All those like spoof movies back in the day are honestly great. They're so good. And then you look at all the spoof movies of like the late 90s and early 2000s, and it's like, ooh, what the fuck happened here?
Scary Movie 3 was maybe the worst film ever made. I think they made more after that too, like Scary Movie 4 and 5.
Yeah, they did.
I stopped watching 3. The best thing about 3, I went to see 3 when it came out when I was in college, right? I thought it was going to be so funny. The best thing was only like an hour and 20 minutes. We got out of there. Like, it's like, thank you, this movie is over. The best part of it that it ended quickly because that was really the worst movie I ever saw. Definitely the worst movie I ever spent money on to go see in the theater.
Did you ever see Meet the Spartans?
Yeah.
That was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Worse than Scary Movie 3.
Which one was 3 again?
The one you probably never saw.
Second one was. Fuck, what was it? I'm going to look it up now. The guy, this is what happened when there's no boxing on. Talking about scary movies.
Scary Movie, the original, was like all-time classic. 2 was okay. 2 was funny. It's still really good. 3 was just the worst thing ever.
This one was bad. You're right. This one was really, really bad. This was oh my god. This was the one with Pamela Anderson and Charlie Sheen and all that too.
Yes.
This one was bad. Scary Movie 1's not bad. I like
No,
Scary Movie.
Scary Movie 1 is hysterical.
It's a legit good movie. God damn it. I always ruin everything with the sequels. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. I know. We're going to leave on that high note here. Liam Roscoe in the chat, by the way, Gary, is saying he's going with Postal too.
Yeah. Is this going to be like when I picked Tremaine Williams? Like, I'm thinking of making this crazy pick that everyone agrees with me? Because then I'm going to feel really weird, like I should pick Ramirez.
Dude, that was so weird how everyone picked Tremaine Williams.
I didn't even think anyone was going to know who he was.
Dude, the betting line switched to him being the favorite.
Which, yeah, it made no sense to me. I think everyone's going to call me crazy for picking him. And then everyone picked him.
He did
it
good.
Looked great for 9 minutes, and then schools.
Dude, those 9 minutes, I was shook. I was worried that my pick was going to be wrong. I was like, I see why Shakur Stevenson's so high on him. Like, it all just made sense. And then his cardio went away instantly. That was bad. That was bad. But anyways, guys, I'm going to move on and be out of here. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to do an MMA show because there's a bunch of MMA news I haven't covered, a bunch of topics I haven't covered. I've been just waiting for Anthony Walker to join me, guys, to be honest. For all those that have been wanting MMA content, go tweet at Ant Walker MMA because that motherfucker has been just dragging his feet. Okay. So if you want MMA content, go hit him up. He should be coming to the studio anytime this week to do a show, and it's now Thursday. So whenever the week is over, I guess maybe he might be wrong or just be pushed to next week. So hopefully tomorrow we get an MMA show going. What else? General Strike Podcast, episode 2 on Sunday. Going to be going in depth on labor unions and the history of the SPD in Germany. So that should be interesting. What else? Obviously, fights this weekend. Rick Ross versus 2 Chainz tonight on IG and Apple. I'll be there. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. Have a great day, great evening, great night. Hit the like button, all that fun stuff, people. Gary.
Find me on all forms of social media, 3D Boxing blog, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
Peace.